All right, so Conan, our exploration of the original Conan mythos continues. The original Conan mythos as conceived by Robert E. Howard in the 30s. And we now tackle the Frost Giant's daughter, okay? We're doing this exploration in our sort of chronological order of sorts. Not chronological order of the publication of these stories by Robert E. Howard because no. So some of these stories were not actually published in Howard's lifetime, and certainly we're not doing this in chronological order along the Conan timeline, in universe timeline, because where would one even begin? Should one include the pastiche novels in this timeline? Pastiche novels that keep growing in number every decade or so. And in fact, I wager that some fresh new pastiche Conan work is being written right now as we speak somewhere in the world. And then, why not include, I don't know, the comic books, Marvel, Dark Horse, whatever, or even the cartoons, what do we include in this timeline? What is canon Conan? Canon Conan. I love that. Has it been said before? Is it canon Conan? Because if not, I call it. You heard it here first. Canon Conan. No, but anyway, no. That kind of timeline would be too tricky to write, particularly because it would probably have to be periodically rewritten, updated. Of course, back in the day, several attempts had been made to come up with a Conan continuity timeline, along which to nail every Conan work with red nails, every Conan work that had been written until then. One such attempt having been made in 1989 by none other than Robert Jordan, who was also a Conan pastiche writer. Do look it up. I'm sure you're already aware of that. But as I said, no, even that timeline would be outdated by now. And then the man went on to write The Wheel of Time, and the rest is history. But I digest. Anyway, no. The chronological order I'm following here is based on, to the best of my knowledge and ability, based on the order in which these stories sprang out of the author's mind. My primary source for that, here being the coming of Conan of Cimmeria, the collection of Conan stories, which was originally published in 2002, first in the UK by Wandering Star Books under the title Conan of Cimmeria, Volume 1, 1932 to 1933, and then picked up the following year in the US by Ballantine Del Rey, and it's been referred to as the Del Rey edition ever since. So we kicked off with the Phoenix on the Sword, my previous Conan commentary, and that was a story Robert E. Howard wrote for a different character and cycle, the Cull, the Conqueror cycle. I won't be talking about that here because I have spent enough words about it in my commentary for the Phoenix on the Sword. Feel free to listen to that anytime. No, not now. So stay with me for the time being. Don't be too ADHD like yours truly. No, but the only thing I'll reiterate from that commentary is that while that first story showed us a king Conan, uneasily sitting on the throne of Aquilonia, so basically a Conan who is already in the latter part of his career, this story features a Conan somewhat in the middle of his arc, a run-of-the-mill everyday Conan, if you will, in one of his countless adventures / campaigns / battles, in a completely different part of the world he inhabits, a world known as the Hyborian continent. So, but where are my manners? Welcome, dear listener, to the rambling commentaries of an insane person online, this one being the second commentary on the original Conan stories by Robert E. Howard, the brilliant author. Yeah, my cat definitely agrees on that. Brill- yeah, brilliant. Yeah. No, just, yeah. I do not shy from using words such as brilliant when they're, they sort of feel appropriate. A brilliant author credited with inventing this character, Conan, and the world he inhabits over 93 years ago at the time of recording this. Because this story here, The Frost Giant's Daughter, was never published in this form until the Del Rey, blah, blah, blah. Because the magazine Mr. Howard submitted it to, Weird Tales, initially rejected it. So Robert E. Howard did what he usually did in such contingencies. He gave it a different title, The Gods of the North, he called it. Changed a bunch of other things, names, etc., and submitted it to a different mag, The Fantasy Fan, which published it in March 1934. Now, I have read this Gods in the North story, and so far as I could tell, the one noticeable difference is that, well, basically we don't have Conan there. The protagonist's name is not Conan of Cimmeria, but Amra of Ecbatana. Is not as catchy, if you ask me. And this Amra character didn't make it to posterity. But yeah, this means that this version of the story that I'm about to comment on, dissect, qualifies for my chronological sort of criteria I just explained earlier, in that A, it was not published as a Conan story in Robert E. Howard's lifetime, but B, was written by the author as a Conan story, and it was written right after The Phoenix on the Sword, which was the very first Conan story he ever conceived, making this his second ever story, until some other info comes to light, proving me completely wrong. Right, so let's proceed. What happens in this story? Well, first of all, it takes place in a kingdom / nation up north, almost a legendary place called Vanaheim. Now, for a clue as where exactly we find ourselves right now, aside from looking at the map of the Hyborian Age, we turn to a world-building pseudo-essay penned by Robert E. Howard himself, and appropriately titled The Hyborian Age. Massive info dump on the world inhabited by Conan and all those other characters. Here is what he has to say about those countries up north. Here we go. In the north, golden-haired, blue-eyed barbarians, descendants of the blonde Arctic savages, have driven the remaining Hyborian tribes out of the snow countries, except the ancient kingdom of Hyperborea, which resists their onslaught. Their country is called Nordheim, and they are divided into the red-haired Vanir of Vanaheim and the yellow-haired Aesir of Asgard. So, yeah, okay, so these two people, the Vanir of Vanaheim and the Aesir of Asgard, we learn at the beginning of this story, they have been knocking the crap out of each other for like ever. And once again, we find ourselves peeking at names of ethnic groups that Monsieur Howard lifted from actual Earth history. Because let's not forget that Hyboria is our world. Was, between the time when the ocean drank Atlantis and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, or in the words of the author himself, there you go, that quote remains, it's an age which men have forgotten, but which remains in classical names and distorted myths. This is what he wrote in a letter to H.P. Lovecraft around April 1932. And the war between the Aesir and the Vanir being no exception, because it's told, these two peoples, and they're told they feature in Norse mythology, these two peoples being described as semi-gods in the Nordic myth, as far as I remember. But here Howard is telling us, no. These were regular peoples like us. Well, not exactly like us, because these were fierce warriors with superhuman strength. But yeah, most of the actual story has been long forgotten, distorted. But here we have it, exactly as it happened before men forgot. Exactly as it happened, and seen from the eyes of a certain Conan the Cimmerian. And of course, 30 years later, Stan Lee would use the Asgard setting for this for his Mighty Thor stories, his Marvel Mighty Thor stories. Funny how so many elements in this story somehow keep eventually pointing to Marvel Comics. And not for the last time here. Anyway, so things get a bit more complicated because in the Conan universe, the Vanir of Vanheim and the Aesir of Asgard, from what we are given to understand, are also engaged in a lot of proxy battles, if we can call them that, involving the use of soldiers of fortune. And this is where Conan comes in, because the story begins at the end of one such skirmish between two armies. But Conan, being neither from Asgard or Vanheim, I guess that these two armies have foreign sort of units embedded in them. It's not clear actually, but are they like PMSC, I suppose, private military security contractors, that sort of thing? So Conan was fighting as one of the Reavers, led by a commander named Wolfir. There's another name that is lifted from Nordic mythology. And they were on Asgard's side, while the opposing army is called the Wolves of Bragi. I'm going to call him, some guy called Bragi. I'm going to call him Bragi. And we find all that background out towards the end of the story, because in typical Robert E. Howard fashion, he gives us this info piecemeal, to keep us geeks engaged, wanting to know more. So what happens here? Because the story is actually quite simple. Boy meets girl. Girl lures boy to a trap, namely girl's murderous brothers who attempt to carve out boy's heart and serve it as a hors d'oeuvre at their father's feast. Pretty standard, really. Pretty standard, in Dr. Evil's words. Award yourselves 5 points if you caught that reference. But I'm getting ahead of myself here, because that happens, later. We'll find all that out later. And by the way, I hope you have read this story already, because I'm about to spoil the hell out of it. This commentary is kind of like my way of sharing our common love for the Conan saga by discussing a story that both you and I already know, dear listener, and maybe as an incentive for you to reread it, but not necessarily read it for the first time, Kind of like discussing a movie you've just watched with a friend of yours over coffee and pie, over coffee and donuts, over a couple of beers. Or maybe you're using this podcast as a way to keep you awake while you're driving, or to lull you to sleep, not while you're driving, hopefully. Okay, I don't know. I don't know how you use podcasts, podcasts. What am I saying? Podcasts. But if you're anything like me, those uses I just listed back there pretty much cover it. So there. And if the podcast discusses things that I'm already familiar with, yes, so much the better. That's what I usually tend to turn to. Long and boring way to say spoilers ahead. All right, okay, so anyway, as I said, simple story, boy meets girl, and I suspect its purpose is closer to world building rather than telling a story with incredible plot twists that make you go, oh my god, while your brains explode, Because after creating Asgard and Vanaheim, I guess it was now time for Robert E. Howard to use these locations as settings for stories, you know. And how did he quote unquote create, say, Vanaheim? Well, listen to this. Listen to this. Their inhabitants are tall and fair and blue-eyed. Well, pretty much like those the savages from the Arctic Circle. So how can you tell them apart? But let's not get all hung up on details. Their inhabitants are tall and fair and blue-eyed. Their god is Ymir, the frost giant, and each tribe has its own king. They are wayward. They are wayward and fierce. They fight all day and drink ale and roar their wild songs all night. Ha ha ha! There you go. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So there you have it. And in this story, Conan actually gets to see this frost giant Ymir, because this is a universe where gods actually get down to earth and personally exercise, you know, their influence on human affairs, kind of like in the Bible, you know, where Elohim would randomly, unexpectedly, you know, come down and walk among people, you know, saying things like, thou must do this. Anyway, so that's an entirely different conversation, which I'm not going to pursue here. All right, that's not a Bible commentary. That's Bible studies are on Sundays, mate. I'll see you there on that other channel. So the story begins, as I said, at the end of one of those battles where the sole survivors are Conan, who was fighting alongside the Reavers, led by this commander called Wulfhere, and this other guy named Heimdall, who fought among the rank and file of the Wolves, led by this army commander called Bragi. Okay, I've already said that. All right. So now I'm not doing the writing style much justice really here, because I mean, the image of these two warriors facing each other across the field, dead bodies all around, you know, the snow-covered field made pink by all the blood that has been spilled. I mean, pure poetry, man. This dude is a poet, man. Macabre, granted, but poetry nonetheless. And we understand that the reason why this battle ended in a stall, I guess you can call it, is because the auxiliary troops Wulfhere was expecting never came. You know, sort of like a reserve army led by a guy called Njord. So Conan figures, okay, I guess Njord and his lads must have fallen into some sort of ambush, trap type thing, because they never made it to the battlefield. Actually, Robert E. Howard is saving Njord and his army for the final act in this story. But we don't know that yet at this point. All we know is that Conan and this guy Heimdall are facing each other, both thinking, yeah, I'm the last man standing, and all is left for me to do is whack this final guy, like in a video game, and then I can get back to headquarters and report that the opposing army is vanquished, and that I alone made it out of the battle alive. That's pretty much the opening of the story. And Heimdall is all like, tell me your name, barbarian, so I can tell my comrades back in the barracks and we'll have a jolly good laugh, ha ha ha, drinking ale while I describe how ridiculous you looked when I impaled you with my sword. But Conan is taking none of that, and as a great comeback, he goes, ha ha, nah, mate, you be telling your brothers you met Conan all right, but not in your headquarters. You be telling your dead friends in Valhalla. Valhalla, all right? The afterlife, okay? Valhalla, that, yeah. So, yeah, Conan of Cimmeria. That's right. Conan of Cimmeria. Do you know how to spell it? Sorry, I'm fresh out of business cards, unfortunately. Okay, I should probably point out at this point that these dialogues are slightly paraphrased, but there you go. But yeah, be it as it may, they engage in battle, and I know I wouldn't do this paragraph justice if I simply described it to you, because as far as these fighting things are concerned, Robert E. Howard is second to none. And why don't I just go ahead and read it to you? Heimdall roared and leaped, and his sword flashed in deathly arc. Conan staggered, and his vision was filled with red sparks as the singing blade crashed on his helmet, shivering into bits of blue fire. But as he reeled, he thrust with all the power of his broad shoulders behind the humming blade. The sharp point tore through brass scales and bones and heart, and the red-haired warrior died at Conan's feet. Huh? How about that, huh? And you know what? I don't know if you have ever watched the movie The Whole Wide World, made in 1996. Renee Zellweger, Vincent D'Onofrio plays Robert E. Howard in it. At the time of recording this, the film is available on YouTube in its entirety. And if you haven't watched it, I recommend it to you. It's kind of like a love story, you know, the way they used to make love stories in the 90s. But yeah, no, do watch it. Not now. Again, not now. Stay with me. Stay. All right. No, I recommend it to you. But why did I bring up The Whole Wide World? I brought it up because at some point in the movie, there's a scene where, you know, the Renee Zellweger character is standing just outside Robert's house. She's about to enter, and overhears him reciting his lines aloud as he's typing on his story on a typewriter. You know, so before committing those words to paper, he's reciting them to himself. You know, shouting those words on top of his lungs in his study. And I bet that real life Robert E. Howard actually did that. You know, especially those fighting scenes I read you just now. Fun trivia fact. The scene we hear Vincent D'Onofrio shout in the movie, the scene is... Wait, I wrote it down. There you go. He stepped closer as if impelled by a powerful fascination. Without the slightest warning, he grabbed her up in a bear-like grasp. Which, that's what we hear him say in the film. And this is a quote from Jewels of Gwahlur, another Conan story that I hope to cover soon in this same channel. So yeah. So now Conan, where was I? Okay, let's get back to the Frost Giant's daughter. Conan has just murdered his last foe. So now Conan is the last man standing in a battle. But guess what? His troubles are far from over, because the next thing he hears is a mocking laughter. Okay, no, so maybe not something quite as moronic as that. That was something. Okay. Okay. No, but I did say it was a mocking laughter, so maybe more like a nerdy. Okay, we'll go with that for now. So yeah, okay. So who could it be? He looks around. What's going on here? Surely. It's a silvery laugh, actually coquettish, might I add. Upon rereading that page, it says, yes, this is a silvery laugh produced by a woman whom Conan now sees, produced by a woman pale as ivory and naked as the day she was born, save for a light veil of gossamer, which I actually had to look up, because if I ever knew what gossamer is, I certainly had forgotten it by the time I started rereading the story. So I looked it up, and so a thin sheer woven fabric. The structure of the fabric is similar to silk, cotton, cotton wool. The fabric may be coated with rubber to make it waterproof. Okay, I only wrote sketchy notes, but imagine silk. So now you wouldn't walk around naked except for a veil of silk on you, would you? But this woman, haha, could she be supernatural? She doesn't feel a cold. Okay, but you probably already knew that, but as I said, I had to refresh my memory about as to what gossamer actually is. Anyway, so Conan goes, "Hey, gossamer lady, who are you?" Okay, pale woman with a silvery laugh and feet as white as the snow. In fact, whiter, because a lot of blood has been spilled here. So it's kind of like pink. Sorry about the mess. Been fighting, but yeah. All right, as I said, paraphrase dialogue, all right? Yeah, but she keeps laughing with that silvery laugh of hers, tilting her head, and it's the silvery laugh is actually tinted with cruelty. Conan is now noticing for the first time. Silvery but cruel. Yeah, and he's a military man right now, so he's thinking, friend or foe? That's what matters to him right now. And he immediately concludes foe, because she looks kind of like Ginger, so clearly Vanir from Vanheim. But no, she goes, well, when did I ever say I'm Vanir? Vanir, must be Vanir. Okay, so then you must be Aesir of Asgard, because, yeah, now you do have blonde highlights upon closer inspection. Kind of cute, actually. Yeah, no, mate, I never said I'm Aesir either. Aesir either. Okay, let me repeat that slowly. I never said I'm Aesir either. Okay, not Easy Rider. As in Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper. All right. So no, she's not from Asgard either. So Conan looks super puzzled at this point. He goes, but surely you must be from somewhere. By Ymir, which is not Conan's god, because we all know that Conan's god is Crom. It has to be pronounced with the Schwarzenegger accent. And at that point, the girl, the white as snow, mysterious woman goes, no, don't pronounce the Lord's name in vain. In fact, I might say, don't pronounce the Lord Father's name in vain. She's kind of sounding like Sister Assumpta from Sunday school, ready to slap Conan on the back of his hands with a ruler. Do not name the Lord's name in vain, you sinner. Okay, it was a dreadful accent. I just did like that. But we readers at this point are beginning to put the pieces together because the story is titled The Frost Giant's Daughter. So it's this gal, isn't it? I mean, and she's pissed off at hearing her own father's name shouted by this barbarous foreigner. That's what's going on here, isn't it? Oh, bloody foreigners coming here shouting our God's name in vain. Country's going to the dogs, I tell you. But Conan takes this opportunity to ask her, hey, look, did you by chance see a battalion of men? Or maybe just a couple of companies coming this way? Yeah, I'm very specific when it comes to the number of units. I'm a military man, you see. Did you see a bunch of men coming this way? Asgardian men? Njord's men, to be precise. They were supposed to come to our aid, a bunch of Aesir or Asgardian, if you prefer, Asgardians, all blonde, each and every one of them. Not much diversity in this army, I must say. They have pretty low scores, would you call them, environmental, sustainable, social scores. Pretty low ESG scores, this army. I know, I bet they don't even recycle. Oh, despicable. Anyway, so did you see them? Tall dudes. Yeah. But the girl gives Conan a sort of like a hippie flower child kind of reply, because she goes, yeah, man, I've seen the hoarfrost glittering in the sun. I have heard the wind whispering across the everlasting snows. And Conan goes, okay, all right, there's always one, on acid. Yeah, all right, never mind, what, I don't know what you've been smoking, lady, but if you could be so kind as to take me to your village, where I can talk to someone sensible, your village, which I assume must be nearby, then yeah, I'd appreciate that. There are no villages around here, barbarian. Yeah, what? You're telling me you've been walking miles and miles in this cold, wearing nothing but this gossamer veil? Now I can't stop using that word. I mean, you must be from somewhere. Yeah, well, you know what? My village is far too far. It's far too far for you to walk. See, she keeps being all cryptic and enigmatic and stuff. Forget about the village. Check me out instead, huh? See, this is the woman still going, forget about the village. Look here, look at... have you ever seen something like this? At this point, she does a little pirouette, arms open wide provocatively. Huh? Look at that. Am I hot or what? Huh? Barbarian. And Conan can't disagree with her because apparently she really does look hot from the description we're given. And she goes all coquettish on him and goes, all right, see if you can catch me. At which point she just makes a runner and Conan right behind her, in a sort of like, I'll show you, just you wait kind of tone, and she keeps mocking him, nerdy, and he keeps running after her, his libido mounting, I might add, which makes running more awkward, if you ask me, because certain body parts tend to start bouncing rather than dangling. I bet you'll be grateful for that image I planted in your mind. If you think I'm making this up, the libido part, I mean, if you think I'm just adding it, let me know. Okay, so just listen to this, okay? Desire for the taunting figure before him hammered at his temples and drove his wild blood fiercely through his veins. There you go. Passion, fierce as physical agony, no less, flooded his whole being, so that earth and sky swam red to his dizzy gaze. In the madness that swept upon him, weariness and faintness were swept away. So there. You tell me if that's not libido being described here. So anyway, the chase goes on for a bit. The gal mocking, Conan all the way, following. And it's a whole kind of like, you can't catch me, and then you can't escape me, I'll follow you to hell. That's a verbatim quote from Conan. And even then, Conan does realize this could be a trap. I mean, the man is smart, but he doesn't even care at this point. He just goes, look, if you're leading me to an ambush, I'll pile the heads of your kinsmen at your feet. There. That's how I roll. And that's how those heads will roll as well. See what I did there, huh? Ba-dum-tish. Yeah, but at that point, plot twist. Dun, dun, dun. At that point, two gigantic figures rise up to bar Conan's way. Here, let me read you the description, because it's quite impressive. The scales of their mail were white with hoar frost. Their helmets and their axes were covered with ice. Snow sprinkled their locks. In their beards were spikes of icicles. But their eyes were cold as the lights that streamed above them. So they're frost giants. These are other frost giants. And yes, it is indeed a trap, because the white girl, shall we just call her a white girl? Because, yeah, her skin is literally white, as white as the snow underneath her feet, or so Robert E. Howard tells us. So yeah, it's not just a Caucasian pink sorry, type of coloration. Actual white, Snow White. Oops, Snow White. Anyway, where was I? So the white gal goes, get him, brothers! See, those two giants are her brothers. Get him, brothers! I brought you another victim, ha ha ha! So you can slay him, carve out his heart, and barbecue it, a few herbs and spices as usual, and we can serve it sizzling at our father's table on a chopping board. She's being really specific at this point. And So yeah, there's still more fighting ahead for Conan. Oh, the day's never over. Holy crap! So clash, clang, clang, sword. That's the sound of swords. But yeah, all in all, it just takes Conan one paragraph here on the text to dispatch these two new enemies. The second one, he nearly beheads. The first, I'm not too sure, because there's a description of Conan's sword severing the first giant's thigh off, I guess, somehow. But then he falls in the snow and things get a bit confusing from there. But anyway, yeah, Conan is victorious. That's the bottom line. So we're in a classical "who's laughing now" kind of trope. It actually does have an entry on TV tropes. Who's laughing now? I thought I'd point that out. I don't know. Look it up. It's quite funny. So he grabs her now. You're not laughing now, are you? So she wriggles out of his arm lock and starts running again. Deja vu here. At which point Conan is all like, "Oh no, you don't!" And another chase through snowy terrain ensues. Puff, 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 pant, pant, pant. And another half marathon later, he finally catches up with a woman. He tosses his sword onto the snow, like that, and he grabs her, and he's all like, "You are cold as the snows," he mumbled dazedly. I'm reading here from Robert E. Howard's literal text. He mumbled dazedly, "You are cold as the snows. I will warm you with the fire of my own blood." And oh my God, that is like so problematic. Hashtag no means no, Conan. Like, can't you just do what you usually do with all other enemies who try to kill you, i.e. simply impale them with your sword and then behead them and hack them to pieces? I mean, no, you had to go ahead and make unwanted unwanted advances. No, Conan, that's a huge no. So anyway, no, but seriously, let me read you the following passage because it's so erotically charged. I mean, for a story written in the 30s. Here we go. With a scream and a desperate wrench, she slipped from his arms, leaving her single gossamer garment in his grasp. Oh, she sprang back. So now you have to imagine her naked as the day she was born. She sprang back and faced him, her golden locks in wild disarray, her white bosom heaving, her beautiful eyes blazing with terror. For an instant, he stood frozen, awed by her terrible beauty as she posed naked against the snows. Yeah, we'll see this sort of erotic tension like a recurrent theme here in Robert E. Howard's Conan several times in several different stories. But anyway, it doesn't last long because the gal just flings her arms up towards the sky, which happens to be glowing with an unnatural light right now. And she just screams, "Daddy, Daddy, come get me! Daddy, there's this very bad man who's harassing me. Save me, Daddy!" A.K.A. Ymir. So that's right, the woman's father is Ymir the Frost Giant. Yeah. No, don't waste your time. He's not signing autographs right now. He's just here to pick up his daughter. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, the clue is in the title, kind of, like, the Frost Giant's daughter. I mean, by now we know. But yeah, the way this Ymir guy appears is actually quite impressive. Not a human form, as one might expect. In fact, this rescue, this daughter rescue, kind of looks more like an alien abduction, except it's more like a cold blue flame that envelopes the girl and lifts her back up to the mothership, rather than like a light beam, a ray of sorts. And I don't actually know how it works in alien abductions. As far as I know, it was never one of my experiences. I don't have that on my resume. And in this case, it's not a mothership either, really, although we don't really know what the dwellings of these gods of the north actually look like. Also, important to remember that gossamer veal gets left behind, not just as an excuse for Robert to serve as a bit more of the old gratuitous nudity, but because we will need that later, as proof that the whole thing was real and not some figment of Conan's imagination. So yeah, and I've got to read you this passage. Check it out. And then suddenly the borealis, the snow-clad hills, and the blazing heavens reeled drunkenly to Conan's sight. Thousands of fireballs burst with showers of sparks. Picture that. And the sky itself became a titanic wheel which rained stars as it spun. Under his feet, the snowy hills heaved up like a wave, and the Cimmerian crumpled into the snow to lie motionless. See, we're dealing here with powers that are way, 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 way bigger than us, humans. So yeah, our hero passes out, and he's awakened by none other than Njord. That's right, he finally made it. Glad you could join us, Njord. Njord and his men. A whole bunch of tall, golden-haired warriors. That's right, as we said, they did fall into some kind of ambush, but were victorious in the end. Then they had to stop for a pee or something. Anyway, so the point is they arrived when the battle was all over. Oh, shoot, what did we miss? Yeah, but still just in time to find a semi-frozen Conan, a Conan ice popsicle, and just in time to revive him, rubbing his limbs, and so on. And Conan's coming back to his senses. It kind of feels like the Wizard of Oz type of awakening. Like, I had the weirdest dream, and Toto was there, and you, Uncle Njord, and you too, Horsa. Okay, no, maybe not literally like the Wizard of Oz, but yeah, no, where am I? Are we all dead? That kind of trope is there. Are we all in Valhalla together? Yeah, that trope is there. And Njord is all like, yeah, no, mate, no, don't you worry about a thing. We're just trying to revive you, If you're ever to wield a sword again, let Njord take care of you. Yeah, drink this. Now, what's that you're clutching in your hand? And what are you even doing here? You're like hours away from the battlefield. We followed your tracks in the snow. That's right, we're good like that, you see. We know how to track people. In the snow, it's really not that challenging. So Conan proceeds to explain what happened, what just happened to him. The woman, the weird giants in icy mail, and all that jazz. And the other warriors are like, yeah, whatever. They look at each other. He's off his tits. He's off his trolley. Must be from lying in the snow at sub-zero temperature for a few hours. Yeah, it'll do that to you, right? Raving, and whatnot. Besides, the only tracks in the snow are Conan's. So there, I rest my case. But no, because some other guy in Njord's rank and file, is there to go. Oh, I heard this story before, actually. He knows the urban legend. So, okay, maybe not so urban. He knows the tundra legend of Atali. That's her name. Atali, the frost giant's daughter. Roll credits. So now we know her name is Atali. We finally find out at the end. Yeah, so Atali, dude, I know. He goes, this is a guy called Gorm. Yes, I love these names. Gorm. Yes, so Atali, yeah, I heard it from a friend of a friend. You know how it is. Anyway, so Atali, yeah, what she does is she hangs around she hangs around battlefields, yeah, preying upon men, preferably men armed to the teeth, busy knocking the shit out of each other. Kind of like Predator. That's what she does. And then she lures them away with her sex appeal, lures them to her brothers, who casually hack and quarter the guy to pieces. And then they carve out his heart and serve it at their father's barbecue. How about that? So that everything fits, the whole story. Everything matches what Conan remembers. But Njord is skeptical. He goes, yeah, what are you on about, Gorm? Love these guys' names. What are you on about, Gorm? What are you on about? Conan was delirious from the blows he received from on the head. Look at his helmet. And besides, Conan is from the south. What does he know about Atali? Which tells me two things. Really, one, that Njord should not seek employment as a private detective, because if anything, the fact that Conan is or was unaware of these northern myths should in fact corroborate his story, considering how many details of what he just told us line up with what he with the myth, with the legend. And two, holy crap, did Conan just slay a couple of gods? How badass is that? Okay, or maybe semi-gods, I don't know, because it's possible that Atali and her brothers are just semi-gods because the frost giant appeared as a blue flame, whereas, Atali and her brothers have some kind of giantish but humanoid sort of form, shape, and I like to think that these two brothers are not the only brothers, the only sons of the frost giant. I think that we may yet encounter Atali again. Probably has scores and scores of sons, this frost giant. So yeah, then Conan is all like, well, I suppose you're right. I might have dreamed the entire thing. Hey, wait, what's this in my hand? Oh, and sure enough, we now find out what Conan has been clutching in his hand. And in true Edgar Allan Poe fashion, oh look, it's the evidence that it was all real. It's the gossamer veil. Duh, it was all real. I mean, I'm saying Edgar Allan Poe, although really, right off the top of my head, I can't think of a particular. It's more like a vibe sort of thing. Perhaps Ambrose Bierce. Ambrose Bierce, that's it. He's probably more known for the, Ambrose Bierce, the famous for the Devil's Dictionary. But yeah, his short stories are among the finest horror works, to my recollection. And the trope of, that final detail revealing that indeed the creature / supernatural character that couldn't possibly be real was in fact real all along. Yeah, that's definitely there. I'm thinking of the middle toe on the right foot, for example. That if you haven't read it, highly recommended. And in fact, it's an element in Robert E. Howard's Conan stories as well so far, because even in The Phoenix on the Sword, the titular symbol carved or probably laser printed on the blade of Conan's sword was indeed proof that Conan had visited the lost to the world subterranean catacombs where the bearded old sage had endowed his sword with the supernatural powers necessary to defeat the evil monkeys. Okay, if you think I'm on drugs after that last sentence, I invite you to listen to my earlier podcast where I cover The Phoenix on the Sword. That's basically the central story. Unless you have read it, in which case you already know that that's what goes on in The Phoenix on the Sword. Anyway, so that's the end of the Frost Giant's daughter, the character Conan, slowly acquiring more and more traits on Robert E. Howard's mind. So far we learned that he's earning a living as a soldier of fortune, far from home, and he will eventually wind up as a king. So yeah, fair play to him. Quite a career trajectory. So at this point, Robert just had to fill the blanks with more swashbuckling adventures, which I look forward to rereading. And so as I said, the story was initially rejected. This story we just covered, was initially rejected by the weird Tales magazine, but then reworked into a non-Conan story and then submitted to a different magazine. But in this form here, it wasn't published in Robert E. Howard's lifetime, and it was only in 1953, approximately 20 years later, 20 years after it was first written, that it was picked by Lyon Sprague the Camp. And we'll talk about this dude soon enough, because there is no modern Conan without LSDC. The Sprague verse. Does that term exist? If not, you heard it here first. It was only in 1953 that L. Sprague the Camp picked it and inserted it. Well, edited it a little bit, and inserted it in a collection of Conan stories titled "The Coming of Conan." Although it was not verbatim the version written by Robert E. And this slightly altered version reappeared in a paperback collection titled Conan of Cimmeria, published by Lancer Books in 1969, as well as, we get to mention Marvel Comics for a third time, adapted into a Conan comic book story as part of the Savage Tales in 1971, and then as issue 16 of Conan the Barbarian in 1972. And that's essentially the Atali you see in the thumbnail for this video. This particular version, the original version of the story as Robert E. Howard originally wrote it, first appeared in 1976 in a book published by Donald M. Grant. Don't know much about this book or publisher, but the publication featuring this story, the edition, is the edition better known to the fandom as the Gollang's Conan Chronicles of 2000, Anno Domini. The two volumes that I happen to own a copy of, and the already mentioned the Del Rey editions of 2002, which was completed in 2004 with all the 3 volumes. But check this out. There was going to be a cinematic adaptation of the story. Did you know that? John Milius, director of the 1982 Conan the Barbarian film, was going to use this story as a sort of like a prologue, kind of like those unrelated cold openings, on Bond 007 movies. And it was going to be part of a sequel to the original Conan the Barbarian. A film, this sequel, that was going to be released as King Conan, Crown of Iron, pretty much in line with the prologue from the 1982 movie. One day we might go over that script. But eventually the idea fell by the wayside, and we got Conan the Destroyer. Was it 1984? Which I'm not complaining about, actually. But hey, what might have been, we will never know. The character Atali, the Frost Giant's daughter, reappeared in comic book form again in 2020, by the way. And these are the graphic novels published by Ablaze Publishing. Lots of polar bears on the covers for some reason. I haven't actually read those, so if you have, let me know what you think of that, reworking of the tale. I'm sure they're an enjoyable read, and I'll pick them up when and if I get the chance. But right here, I'm just covering the books. So yeah, that's what I'm mainly interested in. So anyway, so this pretty much wraps it up. This pretty much wraps up the Frost Giant's daughter. Next, I'll be covering the God in the Bowl. Looking forward to talking to you then. And if you enjoy this sort of content, don't forget to do all of the things that normal people do under such circumstances. And, bye for now.